In this video, we're looking at a brand new bag from a brand new company. This is the M38 travel backpack from Minimal. What's up everyone, I'm Kevin, welcome to Pack and Roam. Today we're gonna be diving deep into the M38, which is a brand new travel backpack from Minimal. So Minimal was nice enough to send me this bag. I've been using it off and on for the last month or so. I did a loadout video on it last week, and then I took it on a week-long work trip where I did a one-bag work trip with this bag, and I gotta tell you, it worked out pretty well. So we're gonna dive into all the details of this bag today, the inside, the outside, the specs, use case scenarios. I'll tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it. Let's get into it. Starting with materials and specs. The first thing that jumped out at me when I pulled this bag out of the packaging was it is built like a tank. So we've got 840D Cordura nylon with a polycarbonate coating. So this material is very tough, should offer good water resistance, and definitely last a long time. This bag is built like a tank. I mean, the exterior material is tough. And what I like about it is it still maintains a relatively low weight with that heavy duty material. So we're still looking at about 3.68 pounds empty, which for comparison purposes, some of my other favorite large travel bags would be the 45 liter GR3 from GoRuck. That bag is 5.15 pounds empty. The 35 liter version of that bag, which would be closer to the size of this one, is 4.3 pounds empty, so a little bit heavier. We've got YKK lockable zippers all the way around, and then the tech compartment YKK zipper is coated, which is good because that's where your electronics and your tech is going to be. So you've got a coated zipper to help prevent getting water into that compartment. All the hardware is Woojin. There's a custom interior 75D by 150D ripstop polyester, which is very nice, and we'll show that a little bit closer up when we get to the interior. This is a 38 liter bag. So it's important to note, however, that the main compartment is 30 to 32 liters. You've got about 4 liters in the tech compartment, and then the front quick access area is the remaining 2 to 3 liters. So for dimensions, we're looking at 21 inches tall by 13 3/4 inches wide by 7.1 inches deep. So well within the carry-on size requirements of pretty much all airlines, with maybe a few minor exceptions for international airlines. And that's about it for specs and materials. So let's move on to the exterior of this bag. And right off the bat, we'll just go through pocket layout. So we've got a top zip right here, nice big YKK zipper, and that's kind of the dump area. A little bit of organization in there. We'll show it when we get to the interior of the bag. We've got the main zip around the outside. It looks like a number 10 YKK reverse coil zipper, which is nice, big, beefy zippers to get on the inside. You got these great plastic pulls on there. So these are very nice. They work extremely well for pulls. And then instead of putting them around the slider itself, they've got a ring off the slider so that you're not pulling off center. You know, some other brands I've seen loop them sideways around the slider hardware itself, and then it doesn't pull in a centered fashion, so it can make it a little bit more difficult to operate the zippers. But great setup on these. These pulls are great, offer a ton of leverage and, you know, positive tactile grip when opening and closing the bag. And then you can see these zips are all actually lockable, so you can put a lock around those zips if you wanted to. And then behind that, we've got access for the tech compartment. As I mentioned, that is a coated zip around the outside right there. That's really about it. We've got a couple points on here where if you want to put cinch straps on there to cinch something to the front, you've got attachment points for that, or compression straps, because these are mirrored on the front and back, top and bottom. Otherwise, you can use that as like a compression strap if you want to add some straps. It does not come with any type of compression straps. A little bit of branding on the bottom, so I don't know if you can see that, but we do have Minimal, very low key on the bottom of the bag. We've got the Minimal name, very low key, very minimal, doesn't attract a lot of attention. So very tasteful branding on the exterior of this bag. All right, on the side, we have what feels like neoprene material water bottle pocket, which has good stretch to it, but then remains nice and sleek if you're not using it. One thing to note about this water bottle pocket is that I do have some wider stuff in here, like my boots. So I did put my boots in here when I traveled. Those are kind of wide, which pretty much going to prevent anything other than, you know, the 16.9 ounce water bottles that you buy from going in there. I could not fit. My Nalgene, for instance, this is kind of wide, so it'll go in there. It's got the stretch, but then you'll see when we get to the area where the boots are, which is right here, not enough stretch to get it in there. Same with the 26 ounce Yeti. So it would go in there, but then you can see my boots are kind of the width of the bag down here are a little bit more. So you can't get it in past that. I mean, you might be able to force it in, but you don't really want to wrestle with it. That's not ideal. It will, however, fit the smaller store-bought water bottles in there, no problem, even when it's loaded out pretty fat because it's got a lot of stretch. All right, and then on the reverse side, we've got a side carry handle, which is very nice to have, especially if you're going to use it with the luggage pass-through. I did not use it with the luggage pass-through, but if you do, obviously you want some kind of side handle so you can drop it on, because that is in a vertical configuration or meant for the bag to sit horizontally, so you would have to have something to hold on to. One thing to note about that setup, though, is that if you do have a water bottle in here and you're using the grab handle to put it on your luggage handle, obviously your water bottle is going to be on the bottom. And that's really it for the sides. You can see we've got pretty bulletproof construction here. So I mean, there is some heavy duty bar tacking on these handles. The handle itself is like a seatbelt material, but then it's got this rigid handle grip, which looks like some of the interior material, which we'll show in a minute, on the inside, and then wrapped up with some ballistic nylon on the outside. It's kind of stiff, but it's also padded, so great handle. We've got the same setup for the top grab handle, which just awesome setup for grab handles in general. And then this one's got the extra added bonus of being magnetic. So if you're not using it, it's not going to flop around. That is a pretty cool setup, pretty unique. I don't think I've seen that before on any of the bags I have anyway. And really like how that works, because, you know, you've got this nice handle, but then it's not bouncing around and potentially hitting you in the back of the neck when you're not using it. It stays put. It's always going to be where you think it's going to be, because it's got that magnetic connection to the bag. So pretty cool setup on that. Moving on to the back panel. Very cool setup on this back panel. What I do have to say is this is a very comfortable bag to wear. So this harness system and the padding on the back panel, absolutely fantastic for carry. I think I had 27 pounds in here for this trip. I was able to keep this on my back, walk around airports. I did quite a bit of walking through O'Hare, for instance, on my way back, and very comfortable to wear. Awesome harness system and straps on these. You've got a lot of padding. They're nice and wide. Another key thing is you've got a great sternum strap on there. So this is like a seatbelt like material, but then you've got some built-in elastic material for some shock absorption. And then I really like the setup on this because the other side is just a solid clip. And what that does is it makes it extremely easy to use this sternum strap one-handed, because there's nothing hanging. So you can just, you grab this end and you go right to the fixed position there, and then it's magnetic connection, because you got basically a magnetic fidlock type buckle on there, and very easy to operate one-handed. Nothing to hunt for. You know, a lot of times you got sternum straps that hang, so you're trying to grab this and this with one hand and then get them together. And then you typically have to go to two hands. Definitely optimized for one-handed use, and I found that extremely useful, and I really liked it. And then we've got the piping style connection for that, where this is a little bit wider on the bottom, so you cannot slide this off the bottom. You don't have to worry about losing it. It can, however, slide off the top if you want to remove it. So if you did want to slide it off the top, it'll come off up here where it's a little bit more narrow, and then you can slide it back on the same way. And then you can see we've got a lot of very thick mesh on the back panel and the back of the straps with some very nice contrasting yellow padding behind there, which is really cool. I like the way that looks. Kind of matches my yellow Yeti mug that I carry all the time, and very comfortable as a result, I believe, of all this mesh and the padding. So really great setup on here. You've got these several different like cells of foam here to pad You've got the luggage pass-through in the middle, which provides a nice air channel all the way through to the bottom for ventilation. The luggage pass-through itself, I mean, that is basically, that's almost as wide as a seatbelt, and it's definitely seatbelt material. Great stitching, holding that all together. Sits flat when you're not using it, but if you have to, you can pull it out to put over the handle of a bag. You've got another little bit of branding up here with the M for minimal. But overall, very impressed with the harness system and back panel of this bag. It's probably one of my favorite features. A little bit of a spoiler alert there, and we'll get to what I like and what I don't like at the end of this video, but that's definitely on my like list. And then we've got some rigidity in there. So there's a frame sheet behind this padding, and then you've got two slip pockets right here, which are pretty deep, so about the depth of my hand. And I think they kind of build those as hidden security pockets where you could put cash or passports. I'll tell you, I would not necessarily trust anything mission critical to those pockets because there's no positive containment, right? There's no zippers. I think it would have been really cool if there was like a magnet there to kind of snap it together. They're tight, especially when the bag is loaded out, so there'll be a lot of friction holding whatever you've got, but I mean, theoretically, it would be at risk of falling out if, say, your bag got dumped forward and it was small enough. Now, I use this for my phone when I was going through security, so my phone would fit in there. I'd shove it in there, but I definitely didn't trust it enough to put my wallet or anything that critical in there. My phone, you know, if that does get dropped, I can find it with my watch. But yeah, a little nervous there to put anything more valuable or mission critical in there. Just an overall note on construction. Again, I would say from what I've seen, we've got bulletproof construction throughout. Very solid bar tacking and box stitching pretty much everywhere you look, whether it's the grab handles, the grab handle on top, the straps right here. You can see the massive stitching under there for the straps. Overall, the construction seems solid, and it seems to be built to last and stand the test of time, you know, with the materials used as well as the construction of this bag. So overall, pretty impressed. Also, one other thing I should note is that there is built-in strap management everywhere. So you've got the plastic slide type, which I typically prefer. I like these plastic slide type because they're easy to move in and out of the way when you have to. The elastic ones, they work too, but sometimes you could pull a strap through, or it's a little bit harder to position it when you need to. And the plastic ones don't suffer from any of those issues. So we've got them on the straps. We've got them on the sternum strap. Just overall, great setup. And you can tell there was a lot of thought to detail and intention behind some of the design features on this bag. So that's about it for the exterior of this bag. Let's take a look at the interior. So we'll start with this massive dump pocket up here. And I'll tell you, I was in kind of a rush when I was exiting the room the other day. So I kind of just stuffed some stuff in there that I normally wouldn't do like that, but I was in a hurry. So pretty cool setup in this pocket. There is that ripstop polyester, the custom material on the inside. It's got a great grid pattern to it. Very nice high-vis yellow. I really love the color combo on this bag. The yellow with the black. I mean, it's just such a great color combination. The interior looks great. The material feels soft but durable, and it looks great, which is, you know, definitely a plus. And then looking down into here, this is just a massive dump pocket, right? So we've got space all the way down to about here, and you'll see when we get to the inside of the main compartment, there's a pocket here that intersects with the bottom of that or kind of butts up against it. There is a little bit of organization in here. So we've got two stretchy pockets with some black stretchy mesh. We got a stretchy pocket there, another one below it, and then you've kind of got a wide pocket next to it, which I did figure out. And I just want to demonstrate, this is a empty cap one, but that is about the exact size of a cap one. So if you want to organize some stuff in a cap one, throw it in this pocket, it's captured. Really cool setup there. And thought about using it for that, but I wanted to use the back tech organization. We'll show that in a minute. Otherwise, you've just got a lot of space in here for dumping. I've become accustomed to that type of feature in a travel bag, and I really like it. Very similar, in my opinion, to the Civic Travel Bag series from Evergoods. And, you know, one of my favorite features of that bag is that front dump pocket for travel where I can just throw stuff in and get in and out in a hurry if I need to. Really like that feature about this bag as well. Otherwise, we have a little carabiner key leash. So I had a Hero clip hook to that. So this is a steel or metal, aluminum probably, little carabiner so you can use as a key leash. And then there's another loop in there with a key ring on it, which is kind of cool because you can put these together and hook anything you need to. So if you didn't have something that was hookable to begin with, or that was, you know, maybe it was too large of a hook to fit in this little carabiner, you can create your own little fabric loop in there. So pretty cool setup. I kind of assume, I assume that's what the design of this was and why it was done like this. And I think that's pretty thoughtful. I like how that works. All right, so moving on to the main compartment now. This main pocket has side open full clamshell. So if we unzip this with these big YKK zippers, we pop this open and you've basically got full clamshell open to this bright yellow, high-vis, beautiful interior via side open, which for me works out great in hotel rooms because when I put the bag on the luggage stands and open that way, it's just a better fit than having the long lid that hangs over one end or the other. So I've kind of grown partial to the side zip bags in that respect. Even in duffels where it opens kind of more like a suitcase for travel, I think it pans out pretty well. So I've got some stuff in here, some remnants of the last trip. Small shadow pocket with a patch from Max Packs, which is a very cool patch. Check out that patch. That is a cool patch. And then I've got my work boots in here, so this is kind of helping me maintain shape of the bag. But you can see these are wide. And when I initially, if you watched my pack out video that I did of this, initially I was going to wear these and then pack my gym shoes, but I found that I could still fit everything in with packing the boots in here. But they are a little bit on the wide side, which kind of prevented me from using that water bottle pocket. Not a big deal though, because I didn't need it. So worked out extremely well. I do have an air tag hidden in this little zip pocket down here, which I'll pull out. And then this is what I used for my clothing for the trip. So this is the large packing cube. Minimal also sent me their packing cube, so they sent me this one. There's a couple other sizes. They sent me a small and then a really small. So these are all very well made, very nice packing cubes. These are almost like shadow pockets from GoRuck. You've got this nice seatbelt-like handle on there, which is very durable looking, some good stitching, and then mesh on the top. And then this one here has some compression built in. So I was able to put, and again, if you watched the packing video I did last week, I was able to get a week's worth of clothes in here for work and my personal clothes, basically all my clothing for a week of travel last week in this with minimal compression. So great setup, feels lightweight yet durable. It seems to have some sort of grid pattern to it, so it's like a very lightweight ripstop material, it looks like. Overall, I like this packing cube. Very lightweight, but also seems very durable, like I said. And then they also sent me a hip belt, just as an FYI. I did not use the hip belt. All these are sold separately, so the hip belt, I believe, is sold separately, and so is the packing cubes. I'll be honest, when I'm traveling with this type of pack, I mean, if I'm backpacking, I use a hip belt. Sometimes when I'm rucking, I'll use a hip belt. Going through airports, I typically prefer not to have a hip belt. It's just more dangling stuff. When I go to throw it in the overhead bin, they can get hung up on stuff, and it's usually more trouble than it's worth. And then lastly, they did send me this Minimal X Day Owl packable tote, which I did throw in there on top of the bag as a just in case anything changed with my loadout or I had to pick something up or maybe I had trouble fitting everything back in the way I had it in when I went out. I'd have a little bit of extra capacity that I could also use or that would work, as a personal item size thing. So, and I will say I did have to use this. I'm glad I brought it with. It worked out perfect and great use case, or I guess maybe argument for having something like this on you when you travel. Coming from Chicago, I definitely underestimated the evening and morning temps in the area and was a little bit underprepared. Felt I needed a little bit more insulation, so I picked up an extra mid layer, a sweatshirt when I was there, and that was just a bridge too far. The bag was packed out full, so on the way home, You know, leaving Florida it was pretty warm. So I actually I had my jacket, which I wore on the way out, and then that extra mid layer went in there. And then I did bring a sling with me. So I brought the Evergoods Civic Access Sling 2, and that all went inside this packable tote, which then easily fit under my seat, and worked out extremely well. Again, good argument for having a packable tote on you. I do typically carry some type of packable tote when I'm traveling. This is what we're dealing with here. So this is 30 to 32 liters. We've got some slip pockets on the side, which are very nice to have if you need to organize some stuff in there. Obviously, you don't have to use them. Below that, we have some mesh zip type pockets. No elasticity to this mesh. It's fixed, but again, great place to keep things segregated if you have smaller stuff you don't want rolling around in there. And then we've got this built-in cover / compression setup with some adjustability. So there's nothing to crank, but you've got 2 different connection points. So you can connect, you know, wide if it's, you know, you got a big load out. If you want to try to compress it down a little bit more, you can go into these narrower or the, you know, further in clips. And then you've got a little bit of compression, or at least something to kind of hold your content steady, especially if you're not using packing cubes and you're packing more things loosely. And then very conveniently, you have a little zip mesh pocket on there, which is great for flatter items. No stretch to this. YKK zipper on there. So overall, pretty cool setup. I love the interior color, if I haven't mentioned that already about 9 times. So overall, pretty cool setup on the inside. Moving over to the lid of the inside of this. So we've got, this is, you know, behind this is kind of that dump pocket area. We've got the minimal label here, M38 travel backpack, 38 liter, designed in Australia, made with precision in Vietnam. It does tell you that what the outer fabric is, inner fabric is, hand wash only, drip dry, you know, that type of stuff. Other than, you know, so this is the back side. You got a little bit of padding in here. So there's some type of foam inside there. And then you've got a pocket down here. And what I found is the DOP kit, which they also sent me their DOP kit, fits perfectly in that pocket. So that's where I put it. Now, I think you could also use that to segregate some stuff within your bag, maybe dirty socks and underwear, wet bathing suit, something like that. Or, as I found, the DOP kit fits in there perfectly. So pretty good setup. And overall, too, I have to say, I did like the DOP kit. 840D ballistic Cordura on the outside, YKK zips all the way around. You got a nice little front pocket on this. Opening it up, it's the lay flat type, which is pretty cool. And then you got this little magnetic pouch down here. So this all drops down. Great bag if you are someone that needs to hang a toiletry bag commonly, like maybe you're going to use hostel or public restrooms a lot, because you do have a hook built into this, and then this whole setup hangs and is nicely accessible. So pretty cool DOP kit. I did enjoy using it, and I will definitely continue to enjoy using it. So not a bad setup there, and then fits pretty much perfectly in this bag. You've got all the same hardware. Maintains a pretty low profile if you don't put too much stuff in there. So overall, nice DOP kit. I do like it. All right. Let's zip this back up. And lastly, and this section may take us a little while, and if you watched my loadout video, you already know what you're in for here, but this last internal area is the tech compartment. And we've just got massive amounts of organization and storage in this pocket. So there's some good and bad here, and we'll get to all of it. But you've got quite a few pockets. So some stretchy, billowy pockets here, a couple mesh pockets here. We've got more, this is all stretchy mesh, and then you got some loops to help retain things if you need to. Larger, stretchy. I missed this one last time, but that's another, just a slip pocket there. And then you've got another slip pocket up there, which is perfectly sized for like a phone or something if you're going through security. So if we're counting though, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pockets in here, because you have this large pocket that's long in the marketing. They show you putting a keyboard in there. So if you traveled with a Magic Keyboard, for instance, that's going to fit in there. And I wonder if Cap 1 will not fit in there. but you got some pleats on the side, so expandability. So this is great because if you're gonna live out of this bag, you can kind of downsize, you don't need an extra tech kit, which it's nice to keep everything all in one place that you can grab out of a bag, but it's also nice to reduce unnecessary bulk. So if you wanted to, you can eliminate a tech kit and load this out and use it as your tech kit, especially, if you're a digital worker that works on the go, great setup for you. Great setup. But then also, obviously, you have the option of not using that interior organization if you don't want. I did. I tested it out, and I do have some caveats with using that. I'll get to in a bit, but let's move on to the other side of there. So we do have a little bit of volume built into this compartment. And I think they say this is 4 liters of storage. Then on this side, and this checks a critical box for me because it is built for 2-device setup or storage. I travel with 2 devices, the laptop for work and then the iPad Pro 13-inch. Now I will say the 13-inch does not fit in this front sleeve with the Magic Keyboard on. It will if you don't have it on. But thankfully my 14-inch work laptop does fit in there, and then I could put my device inside the back panel. And this is a it's a silicone lined laptop compartment. So very easy to keep clean and wipe out. As I mentioned in the loadout video I did, my work stuff tends to get dirty, and if I'm contaminating the inside of this is much easier to clean than, the furry stuff they usually put, or the, what we call microfiber type covers inside. So very cool setup to that. And overall great layout for the tech compartment. And again, checks that critical box of being set up to carry 2 devices. There's one big caveat with that though, and that is with 2 devices, especially the 13-inch iPad Pro and a 14-inch laptop, that gets kind of thick. And then this can get kind of thick with bricks and stuff. So when you close it up, I was able to get it zipped, but I did feel like it was putting a lot of pressure potentially on those devices. So I did kind of rearrange. I put some of the thicker stuff in the front, like my power brick, which fits nicely in here, but then it's sticking out and I feel like it's putting too much pressure on those devices. So that's the interior. We've got the same, obviously, interior yellow polyester ripstop material, which just looks great, feels great, and it feels very lightweight, but also durable. So that's good. Overall, great setup to this inside. All right, so let's move on to likes and dislikes. And starting with what I like about this bag, it's a fairly sizable list. There's a lot of great features in this bag, but we're going to start with what jumped out at me first when I opened it, and that is this bag is built like a tank. It feels like it's going to last. It feels like a bag you could live out of for months, if not years, and it's going to keep up with you no problem, and you're not going to ruin it or wear it out. It's built tough. Number 2, and this is kind of going in order a little bit, but the second thing I really like about this, and one of my favorite things, is the harness setup and the back panel and the sternum strap. So this whole back side of the bag, the one-handed ability, the one-handed operation of the sternum strap that I mentioned, the padding, the mesh, the breathability, and just the overall comfort of this bag are second to none. Probably one of the most comfortable, probably number 2, I would say. Probably the second most comfortable travel bag I've ever carried personally. Now, obviously, there's a lot out there I haven't tried, but I would say right up there with the GoRuck GR3. So the straps in the GR3 are a little bit thicker, a little bit wider, and I just find their carry hard to beat, but this would be a close second. This is a very comfortable bag to carry. All right, number 3 on this list for me is the full clamshell side open for the main access, which makes loading it out and using it in hotel rooms a breeze, and just great setup for that. Number 4, I love the front dump pocket, and that has kind of become almost critical to me in a travel bag, and I love having that feature. 5th on the list is going to be the carry handle, so this magnetic carry handle setup, and then just the overall design and feel of these carry handles, including, the yellow trim you got on there, which just kind of gives it a little, it's got a nice look to it, and it makes it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing and not just a solid black bag. I really like the yellow accents on there and just the whole setup of those. And then lastly, number 6 for me is the dual device carry. So if you're the type of person that travels with 2 devices, this bag checks that box, and checks it pretty well, in fact. All right, let's move on to dislikes. And this list is going to be smaller, but I do have a few minor gripes with this bag. Some of them are going to be really personal preference based, but one of them is, you know, a build, I would say design aspect. So let's start with that one. And while I love this back mesh for its breathability, and it seems very durable. So it's like a 3D mesh, it looks like. It seems extremely durable. But with these big openings, it's easy to snag it on stuff. So I snagged it on something, pulling it out of the overhead bin. I'm not sure what it was. And I put some very minor tears in basically the top layer. So there's, you know, it's like a 3D mesh. And you can see right here, I've got a little bit of a tear. And right there, I've got a little bit of a tear. So good news on this is that throughout the course of the week, and I use this to and from the airport, back and forth to the plant. This is the only bag I had, so this is what I was carrying. That did not get any worse. And it looks like it's going to hold up. But just kind of an FYI is that while this mesh offers fantastic breathability, and I do overall like it as a feature, I would be a little bit concerned with snagging it and potentially ripping it, such as I did. So part of that's design, part of that's, you know, user error. Obviously, it would have been a lot better if I didn't snag it on something. Moving on to the other items on my list. So number 2 for me on the dislikes would be, and I wouldn't say it's not a dislike, it's just not my cup of tea, but it may be yours. And this is where I'm saying it's totally personal preference. I don't think this is super usable for me with my setup. So if you're going to put a single device in here, I think you've got plenty of room for accessories and you're not going to feel any pressure on those devices. If you are carrying 2 devices though, and 2 thicker devices, to be fair, because I'm using the iPad Pro M3 or the 13-inch iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard, which is pretty thick with both of those, and then, you know, a 14-inch laptop. And then if I load this out with my tech stuff, it's very tight. Again, I was able to use it. I was able to do it. I didn't damage my iPad, didn't damage my laptop, but I think that was a contributing factor to why I snagged the mesh, because I threw it up in the overhead bin, straps up to keep that pressure off my devices. And then whatever I snagged was like in one of the hinge mechanisms with the mesh. But so not necessarily a dislike, just a personal preference thing for me, and something for you to keep in mind. If you're going to put 2 devices in here, this is going to become a little cumbersome or thick and tight, and possibly put some of the pressure on those devices if you're going to load all your tech stuff out of here. Again, in a single device setup, not an issue at all. So, and then lastly, the last thing I will mention is, and I kind of mentioned it in the beginning, but, you know, and this is tough to do. I don't know how you do it necessarily from a design standpoint the right way. But, you know, when you got the grab handle for the luggage pass-through on the opposite side of the water bottle pocket, obviously that prevents a usability issue with the water bottle pocket. But very minor gripe, as I mentioned, and more so personal preference than anything else. And I'll be honest with you, that's it. That's all I could come up with for dislikes for this bag, because in all honesty, I really like this bag, and it's probably one of my favorite travel bags. Now, I think this bag will have a place in my collection permanently, because it is that good of a travel bag. So it's hard for me to believe that this is the first offering from a brand new company, because, I mean, they've pretty much nailed it with this bag. I'll tell you what, I mean, you cannot go wrong with the Minimal M38. This is just an overall fantastic travel bag, and I was very impressed. My expectations were low when they reached out to me a while back. It's a new company, so there's always, you know, question marks associated with that, and then concerns that, well, they probably made a lot of mistakes. It's their first bag. But I can honestly say that that is not the case with this bag. It is almost a perfect travel bag. Very, very close. Awesome travel bag. All right, let's spend a minute talking about use case scenarios and who this bag is for. So for me personally, this is probably not the ideal bag for most traveling I do for work, because most of the travel I do is for work, and in that scenario, I'm usually carrying my gear in one bag, but then it's nice to have a smaller bag, a smaller backpack on hand from the hotel to the plant every day. Otherwise, carrying this to and from the plant every day, while it worked out fine, obviously it carries everything I need it to, it is definitely on the large side for a daily carry setup like that. who I see this being ideal for though, I mean, this could be for a digital nomad or just a one bag traveler in general. This is basically a dream bag. I mean, I think if I was gonna go one bag travel for the next 6 months, this would be a top contender. It would probably be top 3 contender for me to take with for that trip because it is just a fantastic bag. And I think that's truly who this bag is made for. I think it's marketed to digital nomads and true one bag travelers. And that's obviously where this bag shines. So very well designed for that use case scenario. Will work for anything you want to do. I mean, if you need a larger bag for any other situation, obviously this is a great bag in general, but definitely shines in that use case. So what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the M38 travel backpack from Minimal. If you found this video useful, definitely hit the like button for me. Also consider subscribing to the channel, but please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, whatever you got. Definitely drop me a line below. And if you want to dive a little bit deeper into the M38 and you haven't seen it yet, go check out the loadout video I did of this last week, and I'll see you there.